All right, welcome to week 16. I'm back, at least visually. I've been here for a while, as so have you. I just thought it'd be fun to give you a little shout out from my office today. We are in week 16, but really I'm recording in 15, which means it's the week of the Thanksgiving holiday. Which, by the way, take some notes, bring it up right now. You only have to take a few notes this week. Most of what we're going to do today is going to be hands-on, so I want you to at least get this in your notes. The holiday is a great time for you to get caught up if you are behind. And if you're not, good for you, and go enjoy. And even if you are catching up, right, go still enjoy your time with your family, your friends, wherever you go. But if you're behind, now is a great time to get caught up because we are quickly running out of time in the semester. Once we get back, it's really only 2 weeks and then that's it. Okay, so I'm going to go over the end of semester task one more time because it's important for you to know them, and then I'll jump right into the material that we're going to do today. Okay, which I think you will enjoy. It's actually kind of a fun little project, taking some of the things that we've learned and hopefully making it a little more real for you. But first, let's turn to the course and take a look. Okay, so here in week 16, as we look at the calendar, right, moving into this idea, again, this goes in your notes. So let me actually take this and show this class so we can talk specifically about it. And so here we are in November, but we're going to roll forward, right? So your lab test, which I've tried to give you all the heads up about making sure you have your Microsoft access if that's what you need. If you're doing it on campus or in labs, right? So by the way, if you're somebody online and you need to come in, great thing to come in to go into the labs. And I'm in the labs on Tuesday, Thursday from 1 until around 5. So it is a wonderful day to come in. I'm not talking about on these particular days because it's already due, but in any day, that's good time to come in. So in your notes, right, December 12th at midnight, your final is due. Right? And what else is also due that night, right? So by the way, you need to have completed it. You'll take a print screen just like you've done with everything else as far as the grades, and then you'll place it in here. 3 attempts, you can report your highest of those. By the way, one mistake I did make, it's 150 questions, not 100. But when you report it in here, it's actually gonna say it's assuming 100 points. So just give me your percentage, right? So it's really your percentage that matters here, and not necessarily the number, but it's a percentage that you're reporting. Okay, so keep that in mind when you do that. So it's also the last night to ask me to late grade anything. It's also the last night to ask me to apply any late points returned. So if you have been doing the trainings, which most of you have, and you've had some late work, make sure you ask me to, give you those points back. Many of you have been doing it as we go, which is great. But if you don't do it by midnight of this night, you can't ask me to apply those, okay? So that's that. So there's 3 big things. The final, last time to ask me to late grade, and last time to apply late points returned. And you do need to be doing that form that I have at the first thing in our course. So if you haven't done the sheet and shared it with me, that's an issue. Okay, got to do that. So then the 13th is the review day. So this is the day we all take a look, or you take a look, because by this time I'll have graded everything, which by the way, don't wait until here, right? Know this answer way before here. You can, I'm doing week 16 classwork here. I only have one more classwork. Everything is available for you to work on, so you don't need to wait, is my point about this. But if you do, you have one day, one 24-hour period from the morning I wake up until the following morning, 24 hours to review your grade. And what that means is there'll be no more work done, but you can ask me for clarification if something didn't get graded, whatever, but there's no work done. Put that in your notes, no work completed, okay? And then I wake up here and I put in your grades into WebAdvisor, but you won't see them until the week after, I think, or maybe more. All right? Okay, good? Clear? Makes sense, right? Cool? So the other thing I will tell you is I've mentioned this before, but if you'd like to continue some of the things that we've covered in this class, CIT82 is offered online by me, focused on web technologies. You get more into some of the things that we've talked about here, get some more coding, live coding, doing actual websites. So if you want more of what you got a taste of in here, think about taking CIT82. It's a 9-week compressed, so it's, it's a normal 18-week class compressed into 9. So it's a pretty much giddy up kind of class, but I think I think anyone would enjoy it, but think about that. Okay, so back here, so done with that. All right, so knock that off our calendars. We're good and complete. So here's what you need to do for week 16. Okay, so let me go ahead and open it up so I don't want to edit it. I just want to open it up. So what you're going to do this week is you're going to create basically a very simple website from something we did in Code Academy. And then at the end, I'm going to show you how to place it on a website called GitHub to make it a web page. So I need to take this off because last semester I used Google Drive for this, but since then Google has taken the functionality that they offered away because there are other ways you get it to Google and ways that we're not going to cover in this class. Okay, so I'll come back to this in a minute, but this is the steps you need to take, and I'll make sure I update the content. All right. So coming over here in our HTML and CSS, which I know we've completed a couple of weeks ago. Okay. In the first section, actually in this case in the 6th unit, there was a build a resume. So if I'm going to click in here, by the way, this is one of those things that you could have done to have late points returned, right, given back to you. But regardless, if you want to do it now, you can. And the reason I like this is it actually steps you through how to modify this, which is totally awesome, right? So I don't have to do a lot of that with you, but I will just kind of do some general stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy the index, and then we're going to copy the CSS into a directory on your computer, okay? And then we'll do some modifications. Now, you can also modify it right here, okay, in here. So if you wanted to, because you're going to have to create your own content, but I do say, going back here, you can also make up, like, it doesn't have to be your information specifically. You can make it up for a fictional or a famous character if you wanted. Okay, but do think about this is actually a good opportunity to start building a resume site, right? Got a nice way to showcase that, but you don't have to in this case. You just have to build something. Right? Make clear. Does that make sense? All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use, and I recommend in general, you think about using something called Sublime Text. This is a free, completely free open source editor that you can get on the web and does HTML editor. And if you go on and do some of this stuff, this is a great editor to get started with. So you can download this. And because I'm on Mac, it's giving me the Mac option, but on Windows you can do this as well. And again, if you didn't want to do this part, that's cool, but I'm going to do it because I just like working with an editor, and I already have one right here. Okay, cool. Right, so I have one right here. This is the editor that I was talking about. I already have it installed and running. Right, all right, cool. So the first thing we're going to do over here is we're going to take all of this code. So I just click, drag, and click, hold, and drag, and copy that. I'm going to do it. You could do it this way, right? Actually, I'm not sure why. Maybe Code Academy. I just did the keyboard shortcut for that, and then I'm going to go into Sublime Text and I'm going to paste that. Cool, right? So in this case, this is your first file of your website. Right? In this case, it's a simple resume site, but it doesn't really matter. It's still part of your website. So what we have to do now is we have to do save. Now you can't see my editor up here, but I'm going to hit File. I'm going to hit Save. And because I haven't saved it before, it's going to prompt me for where I want to save it, right? And it'll default into some location in your computer, no big deal, right? And I'm going to pull this up just a little bit so you can see this. Now I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to call it resume. Okay, cool. Now I'm creating a new folder, and now when I did that, right, it also assumed I wanted this file in that folder, but you may have to create it and then click into it, right? So whichever way the process for your computer, your operating system, it may look a little different. So this is for me going to say untitled. I want it, and you do as well, called index, and you want to lowercase this index.html, okay? And let me go ahead and hit save here. Cool. So what that did is it took the file that are all this content, all this HTML markup, and that's what that is, placed it into the file, and then saved that file into a folder that I told it to, right? So now I'm going to show it to you in the web view, and it'll look kind of funky. It won't look like this yet, and let's see if you can figure out why. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to say open in the browser. Right? So what we can see is, yeah, I can see the content, but what's missing here? The design, the look, the colors. So that's because I need this file, this style sheet CSS file. So then I come over here, copy that, copy the whole thing again, Control C. I come back to my editor. I'm going to do another new file. So I'm going to edit, new file. And I can do this one of two ways. I can save it and then paste it, whichever. So I'm going to go ahead and hit paste, right? And now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit File, Save As. Now what do I name it? It's going to try to do that, but it'll be style sheet.css. Very, very, very important you name it that way. And you put it in that same subdirectory, okay? Hit Save. Now notice also it color codes it, what we call syntax highlighting here, right? So now, boom, right? So here's the deal. There's the reference to that CSS, okay? So it was already, the HTML document was looking for it, but because it wasn't there, it wasn't rendering it. And this is what we call workflow. So now I'm going to come back over here to this rendering of my index file, and because now I've updated it, I can just hit refresh and I can see that that then applies the CSS style to that page. Cool? Yeah, it actually is kind of cool to do that. Right? So here's what you need to do now is go through and modify this with either your fictional character, your own, right? Make up some objectives, right? Some skill. I mean, I'm sure you could make this fun, make this whatever, right? And then also I want you to change the color. So let me just briefly go back here and show you one of the links I gave you was to a website that gives these wonderful color palettes, right? And what's great about this is that I don't have to really think what colors go well together. I can just kind of look at these palettes and choose them. So if I was to actually say edit or go into that option, right, I could see that these colors, right, and this is actually the code you want right here, right? So any of these color palettes you go into, you find, you know, like I like that, or no, copy it. You can just edit it. You don't have to copy it, right? So let's say I like that color. I could just copy that, okay? So now let me show you how we would apply it. Let's think about, matter of fact, this is the other thing about doing web development. Let me come back here for a second. So we would really want to change this color at the top, this color, this body color, and this color, you know, these two match. So you'd right click and you'd hit inspect. Now what that does is if you click over here, this actually tells you right in the document or in that item, right? So in this case it was the header. And if you come down here, it actually shows you that that's the color, that's the background color. Now you could, hopefully, if you remember doing this, you probably might remember doing it. But if you don't, and let me just do this one more time, is what I'm doing is I'm right clicking, I'm hitting inspect, and whatever I'm on, so if I do it right over here, right click inspect, then it actually shows me here that color for that item, right? So that's a background color as well. So let's just show you, right? So there's a couple ways I could do this. If I do it in here, it's not making the change to the file. But the reason that's nice is I can see how it looks, okay? So you're just playing here. There's no right or wrong. There's just modifying it, okay? So once you say, yeah, that's the one I want, the colors changes I want, then you'd come over to your CSS file and you would find that, right? So I see my header color, right? And then if you didn't remember what that was, it's like, oh yeah, what was that? Let's see, that was left, class, left. So I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. So actually I could just change that. Now placing it in here, now by the way, this circle up here means it's not saved. And so as soon as I hit File, Save, that circle turns to an X and then it's done saving. So that way, and this is a little bit of a bad example because I actually changed the thing I'd already changed, but when I hit refresh here, it actually keeps that. And what I mean by that, and by the way, these are all great concepts for learning how to code. Okay, these are just the beginning, but as an example, had I made, and if you did want to go into that color thing, you could actually do something like this, right? Just go in here and look like, oh yeah, that's kind of a cool color. Now look, now that's the color. But when I'm changing it, and this is called the Dev Tools, Chrome, and this is by the way specific to Chrome, when I refresh it here, it doesn't change it. It's when I actually change it in here. Okay, cool. All right, so that's what you need to do. So you want to change. Oh, the other thing I'm going to have you do, and this is so easy to do, is I'm also going to have you change the font. Okay, because, and I've given you a link here to Google Fonts, right? So in this case, you can click on these and look at them. And let's just say I'm going to use Roboto. I'm going to hit plus, right? Actually, I don't even have to hit plus, actually. I think I can just, oh yeah, so I've selected the family. There we go. Right, there we go. Okay. So let me show you that again because I went over that just a little bit quickly. So you go through here and find some nice fonts because fonts, like, look at this, right? Think about this. This looks pretty plain, right? So fonts can make a huge difference. And I'm just going to show you the quickest way to add some really cool fonts to your site. Okay, by using this Google Fonts. So let's say it was this one. Let's go ahead and hit plus. And now as I come down here, I have two selected, but that's okay. So there's actually only two things I have to do. First, I'm going to take that, copy that, and that is a link reference. So I'm adding this into my HTML. So let's do this into my HTML, and I can do it right after my sheet. I'm going to paste that link. So that says go out and find that font out on the web and bring it in. So now what you have to do is you actually have to change your font declaration. Okay, so let's do that. So because right now, let me just show you this on the index file. Actually, that's one I did. I'll play with that in a minute. So here's my file, right? And let's say I wanted to change my font here. I could hit inspect and I could come down through here and try to figure out if there's any styling on for that. And I don't see anything. There says name, right? So is that ID name? Oh, so I could put it right there. Actually, font family, there it is, right? So font family was already set. So if I wanted to just see what it would look like, actually I can't, sorry. Let's do this. Don't want to jump around too much. Let me come over here. So then I'm going to go to that name, right? Or I could do it for the entire document. There's two ways to do this, but I'm going to go to that name and I'm going to paste this in there. Ooh. Don't need two of them. Not sure what happened there. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, I see what that is. Actually, that is that because I needed a quote there, right? So this, and again, I come over here, I save it. I save it. Nice. And now when I reload, I see that change. So that was just changing it in the head name. Actually, it's in this case it's ID and it's got a style on it. You could also do it for everything, right? So you could do it for all of the document, but go through and style some of this, right? Add some fonts, make this fun is my point about it. Okay, so get it the way you want it. That's what I'm saying. Get it the way you want it. Have fun with it. Let me just show you because I think it'd be worth it, right? So for the entire, let's see, div here, border style. I'm just looking at if they had declared something, right footer head. No, in the head. Actually, one thing you can do if you want a font applied to everything, you can just do HTML here, and that would be, I could do font dot family, and then I'm going to go down here, right? And if I think this will work. Let's see if this will work. Okay, I got two of those, and then again, spacing and syntax is always important. And I think what this will do, and I'm going to hit save here, if I come back to my document, then that applies that font to everything unless there's another font defined. But I can see that it did actually when I refreshed it. So that is a way to apply it to everything. But then what you do is you're like, wait a minute, why didn't it apply to this? And that's because on the email, there was a font family already selected. Okay, great. I hope you're having fun with this because this is actually really fun to talk about for me. Last step, okay? We're almost there. Now that you have this the way you want it, either for yourself or for a fictional character, right? And again, you're going to change this content, change the color, change it, give at least one nice Google font, choose some fonts, right? By the way, you don't want to get too busy with those fonts, so think about your character, if it's you or if it's somebody else, right? Okay, so the last step is now we're going to actually make it out on the web. Okay, so we've done all this changes locally. So there's this website called GitHub, and I'm already there. You'll need to go and create an account. Okay, you can delete it after the class, no big deal. I don't know if you can use other accounts like Google or Facebook, but you can check that out. So, but once you log in, right, once you get to the login page, then what I'm going to do is walk you through how you make what's called a repo. Okay, and a repo is just a place out on their site, which, by the way, if you're going to get into coding, you're going to learn more about Git and GitHub. If you take my CIT15, you will also learn a lot more there. Okay, so, but my username is what the username that I created. That's what you need to know. So for me, it's Rio Waller. Okay, because the next step that I'm going to do, you need to know what that is. All right, so I'm going to come over here. And I'm going to create and see this plus over here. I've put my picture. You don't have to. Which, by the way, okay, let me say this. I actually did play around with this last semester, and this is kind of what I played and got some nice color. I actually ended up adding a photo as well. That's a fun thing to do. You could also do that, but just saying, okay? But get it ready and then do this part. So now we're going to do new repo. So you can normally give this any name you want, but in this case, there's a feature on GitHub that if we name the repo in a particular way, and the repo is just like creating a directory out there in a sense, but if we give it a specific name, it actually makes it a website, which is totally cool. Okay, so you use your username, right, dot github.io. Got that? Let me zoom in. So whatever your username when you created your account, .github.io, right? Now, all this means is that, yeah, you can use it because you don't already have one set up, right? My resume. Okay, you leave it as public. This other stuff, we're just going to wave our hand a little bit at. But again, if you want to continue learning more about this, you'll learn about what this means. But for now, we're just going to create the repo. Cool. So now it's giving us a little like, okay, you can do this, let's do this, but don't get hung up here. I know it looks like a lot of stuff, but it's not. It's not a big deal, right? Because normally people will push their code into this site, but we're not going to get that far into it. But again, if you take other classes, you will, right? So for this quick setup, I'm just going to go ahead and click back on the repo itself, and what I'm so. This next little step is going to feel a little weird, but don't worry about it. It's only because of the process we're using. We're not doing traditional, what we call moving files to the server, or what we call pushing. So what I want you to do is I want you to click on this first one that says README, okay? And what this will do is it'll just create a README file for your repo. And you could put anything in here, right? Like my resume. I think it may already have some content in there, but no big deal. Okay, so once we create the first file, then we have the ability to get to create the others. That's all we have to do this for. So go down to the bottom, and what you have to do is make a commit message, right? So I would say my first file. Some doesn't matter the message. This is just, by the way, what we call version control, which is an important thing in coding to be able to see the different versions of your code. Just setting up my new repo. Okay, I'm going to commit that file. And so what that does is it creates a file called the README file, which is an important file because it tells other people about your site. But now, the reason we did that is to get this option right here. Okay, because here's what we're going to do. We're at the end here. The last two steps are to take these two modified index and CSS file, and now we're going to create them up on GitHub. Okay, so I'm going to create a new file up in here, call this one index.html, go over to your editor, copy that. Again, I would only do this once you have it the way you want it, right? Because that way, because if you mess with it after you've done this, you have to just do new commits, which is fine, right? So here I would say creating my index file, my new resume website. We'll go ahead and create. Cool, I'll go ahead and commit that file. So now we have our index file. So now what we need to do is one more file. This will be easy because I bet you know what this is going to be called is stylesheet.css, right? Come over to your editor, go to your style sheet, select all, copy. I'm doing, by the way, keyboard shortcuts there for select all, right? Cool, that's the way we want it. Go to the bottom, do a commit message, creating CSS for my resume. Go ahead and hit commit. Cool. Now, here comes the magic. The final part of this is you've created these files, but now you can actually just go to a browser, dun, 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 and actually get that thing rendered as a web page. Awesome, right? This you can now share with people. So the whole purpose of this was to show you how to build a simple page, modify it with some style, some color, some of your own content, show you how to do some basic editing stuff, show you how to use a website or a website called GitHub to actually place your files onto their system, and then showed you how, based on the name of the repo that you've given it, to create an actual website. Awesome! Okay, so copy that, place it into your notes, and give me a link. So I know that was a little bit involved, but honestly, I think it's worth the time you give it. If this is fun for you, let me say another time, or let me say it to you again. Think about taking my CIT82 for the first 9, and the second 9 is CIT85 with Todd McLeod, who really covers more in depth how to create websites. Okay, have a great holiday. Talk to you after.